Hi everyone, welcome back to Rabbi's Reflection. We'll continue with our reading of Kitchen Table Wisdom, and today read a story titled Beyond Perfection. I hope you enjoy. Beyond perfection. Wholeness lies beyond perfection. Perfection is only an idea. For most experts and many of the rest of us, it has become a life goal. The pursuit of perfection may actually be dangerous to your health. The type A personality for whom perfectionism is a way of life is associated with heart disease. Perfectionism can break your heart and all the hearts around you. A perfectionist sees life as if it were one of those little pictures that used to appear in the newspapers over the caption, "What's wrong with this picture?" If you looked at the picture carefully, you would see the table only had 3 legs, or the house had no door. I remember the aha that these pictures evoked in me as a child. I wonder now why anyone would want to take such satisfaction in seeing what is missing, what is wrong, what is broken. The pursuit of perfection has become a major addiction of our time. Fortunately, perfectionism is learned. No one is born a perfectionist, which is why it is possible to recover. I am a recovering perfectionist. Before I began recovering, I experienced that I and everyone else was always falling short, that who we were and what we did was never quite good enough. I sat in judgment on life itself. Perfectionism is the belief that life is broken. Sometimes perfectionists have had a parent who is a perfectionist. Someone who awarded approval on the basis of performance and achievement. Children can learn early that they are loved for what they do and not simply for who they are. To a perfectionist parent, what you do never seems as good as what you might do if you tried just a little harder. The life of such children can become a constant striving to earn love. Of course, love is never earned. It is a grace we give one another. Anything we need to earn is only approval. Few perfectionists can tell the difference between love and approval. Perfectionism is so widespread in this culture that we actually have had to invent another word for love. Unconditional love, we say. Yet all love is unconditional. Anything else is just approval. The pursuit of perfection is built into every professional training. But long before I went to medical school, I was trained as a perfectionist by my father. As a child, when I brought home a 98 on an exam, he invariably responded, "What happened to the other 2 points?" I adored my dad, and my whole childhood was focused on the pursuit of the other 2 points. By the time I was in my 20s, I had become as much a perfectionist as he. It was no longer necessary for him to ask me about those 2 points. I had taken that over for myself. It was many years before I found out that those points don't matter. That they are not the secret to living a life worth remembering. That they don't make you lovable or whole. Life offers us many teachers and many teachings. One of mine was David, who is an artist and my first love. The living proof that opposites attract. While we were together, my driver's license came up for renewal, and I needed to take a written test of the traffic laws. The DMV had sent a little booklet. I studied it for days. All the while I was memorizing the meaning of the white curb and the yellow curb, David would try to persuade me to join him for a walk, or go to a party, or out to dinner, or dancing, or even just talk. I told him I couldn't take the time. Of course, I got 100% on the test. Triumphant, I rushed into his studio shouting that I had gotten 100% on my driving test. David looked up from his painting with an expression of great tenderness. "My love," he said, "why would you want to do that?" It was not the response I had expected. Suddenly, I understood that I had sacrificed a great deal to get 100 on a test, that I had only needed to pass in order to drive. I had spent days studying for it that I could have spent in much wiser ways. I had learned many things that I did not even want to know. It had felt as if I had no choice. If my father could not approve of me with anything less than 100, I could not approve of myself with less than 100 either, even on a written driving test. Like most addicts, I was out of control. It was clearly not about driving. It was not even about grades. It was about needing to deserve love. Fortunately, David did not play by these rules. He didn't even know the game. What a wonderful, powerful story. I don't think I'm alone in being someone who continues to struggle with perfection, continues to think that if only I try a little bit harder, work a little bit harder, if only I could just push myself more, that I could solve it. I'm speaking for myself, but I imagine that in some ways it's speaking to you too. This is a really, really moving story. Dr. Remen reminds us that perfection is dangerous. Somehow, for some reason, we have a satisfaction in feeling like there is something missing or wrong or broken. And I think it's important to make a distinction between what we know is wrong in the world, the injustices in the world, versus what we think is maybe wrong with ourselves. Seeing the world, again, it's not to dispel or to push away a sense that you shouldn't fight for what's right or to push yourself, but that there's some deep peace, deep feeling in us that we're never good enough. And I think that comes from a strong sense of perfection. Dr. Remen points out that this is a learned feeling or a learned outlook. We probably learn it from our culture. We probably learn it from our parents, even though our parents probably wouldn't want to give this to us. And we probably, sadly, pass this on to our children when we know that we don't want to give them those feelings either. But if it's learned, it means that we can also recover. We can also repair it. We can also see it differently. I was so moved by her little anecdote about love. We feel love, we give love, and yet in our culture, we have created a new term called unconditional love, because somehow love has strings attached to it for some reason. Not sure how we got to that place, but we feel that love has strings attached to it. It has expectations and demands and approval. And so we have a new term called unconditional love, which means, don't worry, none of those really apply to you because I love you unconditionally. But love should just be love. As she said, it should just be a grace that we provide from one person to the other. And then at the end of the story, she talks about her first love, David, who was an artist, who was creative, and seems like a type who wasn't bothered by these things. And that line that he says to her after she comes back, exclaiming and saying, I got 100 on the DMV test. He says, "My love, why would you want to do that?" And so that's the question I'm going to leave you with. It's a question I'm leaving myself with, because this is something that we each and every one of us struggle with. A sense of wanting perfection in our lives. And so the question then is, why would you want that? Thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great day.